What's up, y'all? This is Hammer here again, back with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about white grievances. I'm going to be diving into that because, the title of this video is The Future's Not White. And the reason why I decided to title this video that name, to give it that name, is because I believe that because we have come to recognize and realize that the future is not white, this is why you're seeing these rising white grievances, right, coming out of nowhere. The same white people that were telling black folks, that were telling really everyone across the world, they need to get over the past, they need to stop complaining, they need to pull us about our own bootstraps. But then all of a sudden now they're talking about anti-white racism. All of a sudden now they're talking about white men are being discriminated against. I said, where does this come from? How do you go from racism doesn't exist, stop complaining, get over it, to all of a sudden white grievances? And I believe the answer is very clear. I believe that the reality of the fact that the future is not white is starting to set in. And white people are panicking. And I think what you're seeing now, and what I'm going to discuss in this video, are the many forms in which they're reacting to this, right? On one hand, you have the white manosphere, white male grievance form. On the other hand, you have the sort of, white working class grievances, which is, I'm going to talk about Oliver Anthony for a while. And then you also have the quote unquote anti-white racism, right? The whole, we're just being a type of being white. And I'm going to dive into this is a channel called No White Guilt. I'm going to dive into that too. I'm going to touch all three aspects, right? But first, let's dive into the white manosphere, white male grievances. One of the best examples of this whole idea of the white male grievance is Martin Goldberg, who's in his pictures, actually here you can see it right here, but he, in my opinion, represents a lot, right? Now, he used to have a channel called Economic Invisibility, talk about a range of the relations, right? And of course, he went through his whole manosphere, whole manosphere thing, right? I went through my whole thing, but mainly through the black manosphere. If you listen to Martin Goldberg's videos, it is obvious that almost all of his videos are about the white male plight, right? How white men are losing their position economically, they're losing their position militarily, how they no longer have control over white women or the women the way they used to, how the population is shrinking. That's essentially what it is, right? How what their grandfathers or grandfathers could do, they can't do anymore, right? That's essentially what his videos are about. Now, he may dive into other topics here and there, but it's rooted in white grievances. And even though Martin Goldberg has since sort of moved away from the manosphere and has called out the whole MAGA crowd, he still very much talks about this. In fact, he made a video, I think, in a couple of months in the past, where I commented below, say, look, Martin Goldberg, you got to be honest about your content, because look, everything you're saying in your videos actually represents why the manosphere split. The reason why black men left the manosphere and made their own space is because they recognized that you guys weren't really trying to advocate for males' issues. What you were really trying to advocate for white male grievances, right? In other words, you had, as long as black men in America, or I guess non-white men, if you want to put it right, as long as every other group of men was suffering and doing bad, you didn't care. Because as long as white men were in a good position, it didn't matter. So when black men were being gunned down, it didn't matter. When Hispanic men, Asian, or all these other groups of men were being attacked, were not doing so good, it didn't matter, right? Especially black men. But the moment white males started to encounter any kind of struggle, the moment white males started to face any kind of adversity, all of a sudden now, we got to talk about men's issues. And even then, it's disingenuous because we know it's really about only white males, right? In a previous video when I talked about black men bashing black women, one of the examples I brought up was how Kevin Samuels went on the Fresh and Fit podcast, right? And when he tried to rebuke a white female, right? Because the white guys was trying to rebuke her, right? He rebuked the white female, right? And because the white guys could do it. White men later on went to attack Kevin Samuels. Because even though they're all part of the manosphere, at the end of the day, Kevin Samuels is black and they're white. Not Fresher, but I'm talking about Roll Tomas and the white were the right. It came down to that. And I feel like when it comes to Martin Goldberg, although he may have, I guess, tried to separate himself from the manosphere, the white manosphere, and although he may be moving away from the MAGA, he needs to understand that, dude, the reason why you struggle communicating with non-white men, especially black men, is because whenever you open your mouth, it's obvious that you're not really sincere you are not sincere in regards to the issues of people who are not white, especially black, right? And when black people try to talk to you about the situation, you're not being honest. And what breaks my heart is that Martin Goldberg is actually a very smart guy. He's very intelligent. I know Martin Goldberg is a guy who reads a lot, and if he really wanted to, he could go and pick up the book Empire of Cotton. He could educate himself on issues of race when it comes to black people in America. He chose not to. What he chose to do is to go online and just make. When it comes to every other topic, he's willing to go and educate himself. But when it comes to race, when it comes to black people, oh no, he's not going to educate himself. He just wants to go and just start spouting all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Because for him, all this really comes down to is the white male grievance, white male plight, right? Which ties back to the whole idea of, look, the reason why they're focusing so much on the white male plight, the white male grievance, because once again, it's obvious to them that the future is not white. Like, the future of the globe is not going to be white males. That's not what's going, and they can see that. But what I'm going to tell you, Martin Goldberg exists, okay? The reason why this white male plight is not going to work is because it's viewed as disingenuous, especially when it comes to black men. Because what you white males are going through right now is nothing compared to what black men went through just in America or globally. You think about what happened in the Congo with King Leopold. You think about colonization. You think about slavery in the United States. You think about the slave plantation in Jamaica and Haiti. Think about Jim Crow laws that black. I'm like, just a couple of months ago, in Florida, they're talking about how black Americans benefited from slavery. That's what we got to deal with collectively as a group. That's what black people got to deal with globally. But yet, whenever black people talk about those stuff, the real grievances that black people have globally, the answer is get over it, stop complaining. But white males who have been literally at the top of the hierarchy for the past 400 years, the moment now that their time is coming to an end, all of a sudden now, well, we're struggling. All of a sudden now, you want to have grievances. Isn't it interesting how when black people talk about the real grievances, the real grievances they've encountered globally, it's complaining. When white folks who've been the most privileged talk about how they're losing power and the grievance of them losing power, all of a sudden now we're all supposed to care. This is the reason why I got so angry about Ukraine. Because Ukraine to me was a great example of white lives matter. We love saying black lives matter, but let's be honest here. In this world, it's white lives matter. Because what happened to Ukraine has happened to countries all across the world. There was no tears when Afghanistan was being bombed, was being destroyed. There was no tears when Libya was being destroyed. There was no tears when Iraq was being destroyed. When the U.S. stages coups globally, when Europeans destroy nations, steal the resources, no tears. But the moment a European country gets destroyed, the moment white kids start being gunned down the streets in Europe, all of a sudden now we're supposed to care? All of a sudden it's a problem? Fuck them and the white kids. So the reality here is this, right? What Martin Goldberg needs to want, the reason why I'm focusing, because what Martin Goldberg represents. He represents the image of the white male plight. And the reason why the white male plight is not going to work and is not going to get any sympathy, especially from black men, is because what it really comes down to is we're losing power and we're angry about that. Globally, we're in decline and we're angry about that. And to be honest, we don't care. In fact, we are celebrating decline because after everything y'all did as a group, that's what you deserve, right? But that's the first part. The second part, right, of the conversation is the sort of, white working class grievances, right? So this whole idea of the future not being white manifests in three ways, right? So I covered the white male plight. The second is the white working class grievances. There is a video right now by a musician named Oliver Anthony, right? And I'm like, if you look at this video, it's this white dude who's a ginger with red hair, singing in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, he is a representation of white trash. When I think of trailer park, white trash, uneducated white folks, that's him. And he just singing, I've been working all day. And I just, shut the fuck up. And he was right. He is talking about how a lot of white people, especially in middle America, have suffered due to deindustrialization. He's talking about how due to outsourcing, due to the center of the global economy moved from the west towards the east, a lot of whites, especially, across in these rural areas, have suffered a lot. Which is actually, I've said before, the reason why they tend to be the most racist, because their skin color is all they have. See, if you're a white person in New York or California, you're doing good. In addition to you being white, you have economic resources, right? So, but see, here's the issue, right? Because you already have money and resources, you're not going to play on the race card too much because you already have stuff going. Your life is already going well, right? But when you're somebody out somewhere in the outskirts of fucking Virginia, some white trash in the trailer park, all you have is your skin color. That's the reason why they double down so hard. Okay? That's what it comes down to. It's one thing to be a wealthy white person, right? Where you at least got the money in addition to being white, and to being a trailer truck white person where you got no money and all you guys being white. And the reaction, you can see it. But the whole point of the Oliver Anthony situation is that the reaction from white people was insane to me. Oh my God, it's inspirational. He's uniting the country. I was like, why is it that and see, what got me so mad is that, why is it that whenever Black Americans talk about their grievances, it's always viewed as them dividing the country? Them talking about Jim Crow laws is dividing the country. Them talking about reparations is dividing the country. Them talking about all the lynchings is dividing the country. But let some bumfuck trailer white trash talk about, I've been working all day, and all of a sudden he is uniting the country. I mean, this what gives me this. And see, now I understand why Black Americans are so pissed. Now I know why, they're so angry as a group, because I can see the bullshit now. It's like, is this what they gotta deal with? The outright hypocrisy? I'm like, are you fucking serious? Guys, go online and search up Oliver Anthony, rich men north of Richmond. Look at that song, and look at all the bumfuck whites in the comments. Now, everything that dude is saying is what Black Americans want to talk about. Black Americans have struggled economically. Black Americans have talked about, hey, we living wage, right? Black Americans have been the main one talking about, hey, we got to fight for the working class, right? They've been the main one. But because it's a black face, it's always, stop complaining, pull yourself by your bootstrap. But the moment you see a ginger bumfuck trailer trash white dude singing about, I've been working all day, all of a sudden now it's inspirational. Fuck out of here. But see, the crazy part is, he ironically represents what I've been saying, that the future's not white, right? Look, before I even made this video, right, I was doing some research when it came to GDP. By 2050, okay, Out of the top 20 economies in the world, 14 of them will not be white. Okay? Let me say it again. By 2050, out of the top 20 economies in the world, 14 of them will not be white. Okay? With China and India being the top two. And to be honest, America, by the time 2050 comes, white people will be a minority in America. So technically the US will no longer be a white country anyway at that point. So really, in my opinion, it should be 15 out of 20, right? Because by that point, it'll be a minority white. But fine, to make the whites feel better, I will still put, even though there'll be a minority by 2050, to make them feel better, I'll still put the America in the white category, okay? But guess what? That still leaves it at 14 out of 20. The top 20 economies in the world are going to be now white by 2050. What do you think that's going to do to white people globally, especially in America? I have said it before, okay? The wealth and the resource that white people have been able to gather, not just, in America, but in the West, was largely based on colonization, right? Largely based to slavery, using slave labor to industrialize, and also being able to extract wealth and resources from the rest of the globe. And I said, look, the moment when we enter a time in which white people are no longer able to do that, all of the wealth and resources that resides in the West is going to come to an end. Because their position is artificial. The wealth and the resource they have is artificial. Look, I'm going to give an example. Look at the situation in Niger. Look at France. France is a country that is almost entirely reliant on them extracting from the former French colonies. That's the reason why they're so obsessed about, these coups happening in West Africa. Once again, they're seeing they are seeing their African colonies slowly break away from them. And and they realize when they're no longer able to extract from these black African nations, they're going to lose their wealth. They already noticed. I read articles about 1 out of every 3 light bulb in France is powered by uranium from Niger. Think about that, for example. So the second effect of the future is not white is that as the center of power moves away from the West towards the East, as white people lose their power and as white people decline globally, both economically, militarily, and everything, as white people decline globally and they lose their power, they lose their military power, they lose their economic power, they lose their demographic power, right? Because remember, they're going to be shrinking. So in fact, even in Europe, white people are declining. They're talking about how white people could be a minority in Europe. Think about that, for example. As all of this is happening, you're going to see a larger number of white people talking about the white working class grievances. And I believe Oliver Anthony, that song represents, that's what's coming. That's what's coming, right? A world in which the majority of whites globally are going to lose their power economically, lose their power politically, lose their power demographically, right? They're going to be in economic dire straits, and they're going to be talking about, all the struggles of the white working class, how much they've lost, how much they've now been at the bottom. That's what's coming. Listen to that song, Oliver Anthony, Rich Man, Little Rich Man. That's the future of the white male. That dude, that's the future of white people. That's where they're going. So, you're going to start seeing more and more white people talk about, economic issues and how white men. I'm going to give you an example. I just saw an article a couple of days ago of this white woman talking about how her white kids can't start life. She was complaining about how her white kids are almost 30 years old and can't move out of her house because everything is too expensive. They can't find a good paying job. I said, it's happening. It's happening. Okay? As the economic balance as the economic world order is being rebalanced, as the center of power is moving away from the white collective West to the rest of the world, yeah, the sort of position you have been used to, the privileged position you've been used to, both economically, militarily, and demographically, will come to an end. So that's the second effect of the future not being, which is that That's a second effect of the future not being white, which is that you're going to see more and more white people talk about, you know, white working class grievances, which of course is going to get dismissed the same way white male grievances are going to dismissed. Why? Because once again, it's disingenuous. Okay? Disingenuous. The white male grievance is just about white men losing the position. The white working class grievance is just about the fact that white people have sort of are losing the privileges they've had, right? Remember, all the privilege they have were acquired through atrocities. The Congo, slavery, contraband. So that's what's coming from. And so when they start making these grievances about, you know, oh my God, we're the white people globally, you know, the white working class is no one's gonna care. Because to be honest with you, all you're really complaining about is that the privileges that you guys were used to, or the wealth that you guys obtained through atrocities is coming to an end. Okay? So that's the first two. But the third, right? The third effect of the future not being white is going to be an increase in white people talking about anti-white racism. And a great example of this is there is a channel on YouTube. And you know, I don't want to give this channel publicity, but fine, right? This channel is called No White Guilt. And I swear to God, this channel called No White Guilt, it literally, this dude spends his entire time, just talking about how white people are being discriminated against. Oh my God, this and that. And I'm just like, dude, stop. It's embarrassing. And most of the time, it's not even about anti-racism. It's just about the fact that white people are no longer getting benefits of being white. When you listen to that channel, No White Guilt, and talk about how, oh, you know, white people face discrimination, if you look into it, it's not even about anti-racism, right? All the examples they list is really about the fact that white people are no longer going to get benefits based on them being white. They're no longer going to get that treatment. I've said it before, look, when it comes to white people, right, their privilege is almost like oxygen. In other words, because they live their whole life in it, I'll give you an example. We all know that we breathe air, that we breathe oxygen, right? And our body does it automatically. But because we grew up our whole lives breathing oxygen, we almost forget that it's there, right? It's literally a natural part of us. But the moment you enter an environment where there's no oxygen, you feel it immediately. That's how white people are when it comes to the proposition. They've become so accustomed to it that they expect it to be there. So the moment the environment changes or they enter a situation in which they no longer have that privilege, it's like oxygen is gone. It's like they literally cannot breathe. That's how it feels like. Am I telling you, dude? I don't care. Okay. And to be honest, no one's going to care about white people talking about anti-white racism and their grievances. Because the reality of the conversation is, really what's happening is you're no longer going to get benefits or special treatment based on you being white. That's what it is. And you're going to get held accountable for your past atrocities. Okay? And so it's funny to me. But see, I'm seeing more and more of that. Right? And by the way, this also brings it back to this whole situation about the whole kill the board conversation and how they were saying, oh my God, they're trying to erase white people from South Africa. But you know what? That's a whole nother conversation. I'm probably gonna do a whole nother video about South Africa and the Boers and the hypocrisy white people have. We're gonna dive into the video. But at the end of the day, look. When you look at what's happening, okay, it is undeniable that the future is not white. Undeniable. You know, just recently there was this article that came out talking about how Gen Z will be the last population that is majority white in the United States. Think about that. Gen Z. And of course, in the comments, you had, you know, millions of just, you know, white Caucasians, you know, white trash trailer parks with the pasty fingers. Oh my God, it would never happen. So you know, that's what you got to deal with. Right? And even the Hill made an article about it. And I'm like, the mental gymnastics they had to pull off just to try to, I guess, assuage their fears was, well, if we remove 1 point something million biracials, white people still are majority. This is how I deal with. I'm like, look, no matter how, look, if you look at the census, right, 59% of non-white, it's what, 59% non-white Hispanic, right? What they have started doing was taking a bunch of, I think, really other groups, right? What is Arabs, North Africans, even some people from the Middle East, right? A lot of Hispanics. They've taken a lot of other groups, just classify them as white. And the funny part is that this artificially boosts the numbers. This is the reason why on the census, right, it will say 65%. So it's a white. Wait a minute, how is this 77% white? But when you look at the number, you all say, oh my God, they have become so desperate. They're now manipulating the numbers. I said, are y'all this desperate now? So what you have done is, because the actual numbers were 59% non-Hispanic white, right? And so now they're taking these other non-white groups, adding them in the white category, and artificially boost numbers like what? Artificially boost numbers, so like now it's like what? 65, 75. I said, look, this is not going to help you. Because taking a bunch of mestizos, North Africans, Arabs, and put them as white, yeah, on the paper it may look good, but in reality, they're not white. They're not going to operate as white. I mean, I remember a couple of weeks ago when I was on a Zoom meeting, right, with this white Hispanic, right? White Hispanic. Now, on paper, this guy will be classified as white. But you can see that this dude did not associate it whatsoever with quote unquote they called them the gringos. He was speaking Spanish. This is what I'm talking about. On paper, you can have all these other groups and just force them to a white classification, but it's not going to help because in real life, right, that's not how it's going to go down. These groups are not going to align with the gringos, as some may say, right? So when you actually look at the numbers, look, no matter how you manipulate the numbers, it is undeniable that by the middle of the century, you're going to be a minority. And by the time we reach 21,000, white people will be what? Below 40%? They'll be way below 40%, if not 30%. Like, the further we go, the smaller it is. And by the time we get to 2150, oh my God. 2050, you guys are a minority. 2150, you guys go below 30%. Sorry. 2050, you guys are a minority. 21,000, you guys go below 40%. By 2150, oh, you guys are probably what? 20% of the population. We're gonna be honest here, okay? And so because it is, and by the way, as this is happening, and by the way, it's not going to happen in America. White people are going to be a minority in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, and even in many parts of Europe. That's the future, okay? And it's not just that they're going to decline demographic class. They're going to decline in all areas. They're going to lose. They're going to decline economically. They're going to decline politically. They're going to decline militarily, and they're going to decline demographically all across the globe. And the center of power is going to rely with quote unquote non-white people. This century is going to be the Asian century, in which the center of power is going to move towards Asia, right? And I believe that by 2050, right, Asia is going to lead the globe, especially China. China and the Asian continent is going to lead the globe, and white people are essentially going to be out. But when we get to 21,000 is going, 2100, 2100 is going to be the African century. And by the time we get to 2100, right, the African century, right, this is when the center of power is going to move from Asia towards Africa. And so when 2100 comes, Black Africans are going to lead the globe. 2100 is going to be the century for the Black African. 2100 is going to be the century for Black people globally. But when it comes to this century is for the Asians. So no matter how you look at it, the future's not white, right? In fact, it's not just that. I will say I would actually say the future is black, because once we finish the Asian century, which is this century, once we finish the Asian century, the century that's coming right after it, which is 2100, is going to be the black century, in which black African states, nations, are going to dominate the globe. And I know black. Look, I remember I was having a conversation with BGS Immore. And, you know, he's a good, cool guy, right? And BGS Immore told me something in which he said that a lot of black Americans tolerate the United States because although they face a lot of racism, they know that America still provides them a better standard of living. And he said that, look, when it gets to a point in which African nations are more developed than the West, black Americans will fall to Africa. I said, I believe him. I believe that when 2100 comes, when the black century comes, when the African century comes, and African states become the dominant group in the world, become the most developed, become the most prosperous, black Americans will gladly leave the West and go to Africa. When we get to that point, when black African nations are more developed than even America, than the entire world, and they become the dominant group in the world, black Americans will easily go back to the motherland, right? But you know, that's like a couple, you know, long time away, right? That's a couple hundred decades away. But with that being said, y'all, I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, I had to just come in and make this video because I have just been getting tired. Of white people online. I'm getting tired. And when I go ahead and make that video about the South African thing, that's not a conversation, right? I'm getting tired of white people. Look, I don't care how you feel. If you're a white person watching this video, understand this. The future is not white. Okay? Now, white people have chosen to manifest their anxieties in two different ways. One, by talking about the white male plight. Two, by talking about the white working class plight. And three, by talking about anti-racism. Do that all you want, but none of that is going to change the fact that the future is not white. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave. You guys, tell me what you guys think in the chat. Like, share, subscribe. Hammer out.